Hello, my name is Miss Struck, and I'm an English teacher here at Riverside University High School. I teach English 9 and journalism, and I have found a handful of tips and tricks to make your life a little bit easier with regards to virtual learning. And hopefully, some of the skills that we covered can also be applied outside of virtual learning when we return in person. Today's episode focuses specifically on Google Drive. If you're interested, I have a whole series of tech tips and tricks. Feel free to stay tuned for more information at the end of the video on how to access those. I'm assuming that many of us feel like this when it comes to virtual learning. I know how stressful it can be to try to keep track of everything and stay organized in a virtual space. We all have different levels of comfort when it comes to using technology in a classroom or even from home as we attend virtual school. So hopefully today we can clear some things up for you and you can feel more in control of your virtual learning. Your objective for today through this video is to leave feeling a little bit more confident with Google Drive specifically, but the objective of this series is to focus in on Google Drive, Google Calendar, Google Classroom, Infinite Campus, and Outlook. So again, if any of those interest you, check out my other videos. But today we're going to be creating Google Drive folders and organizing our virtual learning materials. If you're watching this in an English class, this does align with our ELA speaking, listening, and media standards, specifically under media literacy. If you're watching this in any other class, it aligns because we need to know how to use these tools, right? This is something we use in all of our classes. It'll be good to master this skill. So again, today we're focused on Google Drive. And when we talk about Google Drive, this is the magical place where everything goes. And when I say everything, I mean literally everything. But before we jump into Google Drive specifically, note this about Google. There are lots of different ways to access the various Google apps. I have found personally that if I just remember Google's little fillable formula here, right, blank.google.com, I can always go up to my URL bar and get wherever I need to go in a matter of seconds. So whether it's Drive, Slides, Docs, Forms, Sheets, Calendar, Meet, Sites, Podcasts, whatever it is, type that word in the front and then put .google.com and it'll take you where you want to go. But back to Google Drive. If you want to follow along with me throughout this video, you can run 2 tabs, or you can pause at any time to practice the skills that we talk about. So right now, if you'd like, go to drive.google.com and make sure you're logged in with your school credentials. So if you're an MPS, you're logging in with your MPS credentials. Once you're logged in, depending on whether or not you've been here before, you're going to see a lot of different documents and possibly folders that all connect to your virtual learning experience. And here's the kind of cool and kind of annoying thing. If you've been in the district for several years, this will be full of files and documents and pictures from every year that you've attended an MPS school. Which means if you've been in MPS for more than 2 years, your Google Drive probably looks a little bit cluttered right now. So why don't we tackle that today and organize your drive? And maybe your drive doesn't look like what you're seeing on the screen. If that's the case, you can change the view of Google Drive by going to the upper right-hand corner and selecting this little box right here to switch from list view to grid view. And that will show all of your files in a grid. Now, it doesn't matter which way you do this. Whatever is your preference is what you can run with. But just know you have some capabilities of changing how your screen looks in Google Drive. The first thing that we need to do to get organized is to learn how to create a folder for all of those personal items that may not relate to school, like photos or MP3 files, but maybe we still want to keep them. So in Google Drive, your new best friend is the New button, pun intended, which is located in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. Once you click that button, you'll see lots of different options that come up, the first of which is to create a new folder. Now, it's important to note that this button also allows you to upload files from your computer. You can upload entire folders from your computer. You can create new Google Docs or Sheets or Slides or Forms. So you have a lot of options through this button, but right now we're simply focused on getting our things organized and creating a new folder. All right, so let's take a moment and create a folder for your personal files that are not necessary for this semester, right? AKA those MP3 music files you downloaded in middle school so you could listen to NBA Youngboy during silent reading time. We know, your teachers know. But click New, select Folder, name it MISC, M-I-S-C period, which is just short for miscellaneous. Once you've created your miscellaneous folder, now we can drag and drop those personal files that you want to save into a folder that will keep them a little bit more organized. Keep in mind, this is your school account, which means there are files that may exist that are inappropriate for school, in which case they shouldn't be in your account to begin with. So in just a moment, I'll show you how to delete files and folders, and that may be something useful for you as you move forward. Now you can drag and drop your files into your newly created miscellaneous folder. You have a couple of options for this. To create files, you can simply click and hold and drag the file into your folder, but that can take a lot of time, especially if you have a lot of files. You can also right-click on any file or folder and hit the Move To option, and then select the folder where you'd like the file to move. Now, to right-click if you're on a Chromebook can feel a little tricky, but you have some options. You can hold down the Alt key on your keyboard and click, or you can put 2 fingers on the mouse pad of your computer to right-click on a file. And when you right-click, you'll get this handy little menu. And again, you'll just want to select the Move To option in order to move files where you need them to go. So back to those school inappropriate NBA Youngboy MP3 files that you thought you were slick by adding in middle school. In order to remove these so that your Google Drive stays school appropriate, again, you can right-click on the file, and at the very bottom, you'll see an icon that looks like a trash can, and you can select Remove. This is also how you'll delete folders if you ever create a folder or have one that you don't need anymore. And if you accidentally delete something, don't worry. Google Drive stores it for 30 days in your trash, and you can simply go into your trash to pull it back out. Now, for those of you who have hundreds of files, but you don't have hundreds of hours to spend moving them around, you can select multiple files at once and either delete them or move them into a folder. So in order to select multiple files, you'll simply need to hold down the Shift key and click on all the files you'd like to select. Once you've done this, you can either move them into your designated folder, or you can right-click and delete them. Now that you've obtained the new skill of creating file folders and organizing your space, feel free to pause this video and mess around in your Google Drive until you have a layout that you're comfortable with. Welcome back. I hope that you guys were able to get your Google Drive organized and all of those miscellaneous files either moved into a separate folder or deleted. Just a reminder, especially for our upperclassmen, you can create any folders that you need in Google Drive and store important information there. So if you are looking into colleges or careers right now, you can create a folder in Google Drive and call it college information or college info. Feel free to create a folder that fits your needs. I also recommend making a folder and titling it interesting articles or even just school stuff. And anytime you read something that you feel is relevant or may help you down the road, feel free to save that file and add it to your Google Drive so that you can refer to it later on. So let's get to the nitty-gritty stuff, which is where's everything for my current high school classes? You can find that in your classroom folder. So when you click on your classroom folder, what do you see? My guess is if you've been in MPS for more than 2 years, you're going to see everything from all of your previous Google Classrooms. And that's because all of these Google apps are connected. If you're like me, you're going to want to clean up the clutter in your classroom folder. Nobody wants to look at 2 dozen, 3 dozen different folders for classes they're no longer enrolled in. So take a moment and do this with me. Make sure that you're inside of your classroom folder where you see all of the classes you're currently in and classes you've been in. Step 2 is to use that new button that we talked about earlier and make a folder that says old classes, or you can use the word archive, whichever name you prefer. Feel free to pause this video as necessary or replay instructions to follow along. Once you have that new folder created titled archived classes or old classes, you can start dragging your old classes into it. That way, if you ever want to look back on any assignments you've done for previous classes, you still have access to them, but it won't clutter your classroom folder for all the classes you're currently in. And there is no right or wrong way to do this. You could also pull all of your current classes out of your classroom folder and put them into your actual homepage for Google Drive. The nice thing about this is now that you know how to customize Drive, you can customize it to fit your needs and your preferences. All right, but in terms of archiving our old classes, go ahead and just drag those old class folders into the new folder you created titled Old Classes or Archived Classes. Another optional and helpful step is to know how to rename a folder. So to rename any file or folder, you can simply right-click. Again, if you're on a Chromebook, that's 2 fingers on the mouse pad, or hold Alt and click, and then select Rename and type in the name you'd like to use for that file or folder. Another optional step to stay organized is to actually color code your folders. So once you have all of your folders cleaned up and the only folders that you see are for the classes you're currently enrolled in, you can actually right-click on a folder, scroll to Change Color, and then pick the color you'd like to have that folder be. I really like this because I tend to color code all of my classes, and it helps me stay organized and helps my brain connect what I'm doing with how my system works. Lastly, with Google Drive, and this again is optional, there is a Chrome extension called Save to Google Drive. To add this to your computer, you can simply go to the Chrome Web Store and then look for the extension Save to Google Drive. This is a Chrome extension that's actually designed by the team at Google. I think it's really nice because you can save your web content, or if you have a PDF that's up or your teacher shares something with you or a link, once you open it in a tab, all you have to do is click your little Save to Drive icon once you have the extension installed, and it will automatically send whatever you're looking at to your Google Drive. You can then file it however you need to file it. So this is really, really helpful, especially with PDFs, and it's just one more way to help you stay organized and to save information you think is important. Just to recap everything we've gone over, which is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Google Drive, remember that this is the place where all of your digital files exist from every year of your MPS schooling. Make sure it's organized to fit your needs. Make sure it's appropriate for school. Take some time to move things around to better suit your virtual learning style. You could create folders, you can move files, and organize your digital space. You can also access and organize and archive all of your old classwork, which may be helpful at some point to review or to go back to. And that's from every year you've been in MPS or in the district. Ultimately, just remember to find a system that works for you, right? There's so many additional features and different things to do in Google Drive to help you stay organized. And if you're interested, we do have other videos available that cover more than just Google Drive. Feel free to check out my video on Google Classroom, Google Calendar, Infinite Campus, and your student email. That concludes this episode of Ms. Struck's Technology Tips and Tricks. I hope you found something that's going to help you out as you work to organize your digital learning space. Thanks, guys.